All right.
All right. Welcome back to another episode of Classic Conversations. And today I have a really good friend of mine that I really never got the time to sit and chat with because we've always never officially crossed paths. Like as I was going out of high school, he was come as I was coming out of high school, he was going in. Damn it. As I was as I was going into high school, he was coming out. So and the same thing with college. Oh my god, please welcome my good friend Ozzie to the show. How you doing, Ozzie?
Hello. What more? Hello once again, Isaiah.
Oh
I'm
man.
still glad to be here. Like even with all the technical difficulties that have happened so
Oh,
far.
you ain't lying, man. Trust me. All right. So let's just get right into it. Before we get into everything that you're doing now, what take us back, man. What was growing up like for you?
I grew I grew up with I was born premature, 6 weeks premature, the second child, and the story goes that we were not that all the babies in the NICU and Flushing Hospital were passing away. My parents didn't think we would survive either, but by grace, we're both here. I ended up I ended up being diagnosed with a mild form of cerebral palsy
Mhm.
soon afterward, which pretty much brought it on its whole set of complications all across the body. So naturally, growing up wasn't exactly an easy. It wasn't easy because you had to like naturally over. You were trying to like forge your own sense of identity beyond all the complications that came up as a result of the cerebral palsy diagnosis, and that pretty much gave me like all the motivation and like I wanted to make something of myself in this life.
Right, right. That's exactly right. And I can kind of relate with you there as far as cerebral palsy goes because I too have cerebral palsy and it's a whole life itself is challenging, but having cerebral palsy, man, that's just bringing up a whole new set of challenges as far as that goes. But what would you say is the biggest challenge for you dealing with cerebral palsy?
I guess it's been my of all the parts of the body, it's been my legs because I've had quite a few surgeries on them over the years, and naturally, like I can't stand like really long periods of time where before I have to sit down, take a breath to sit down, and with the legs, it's just been like a parade of like devices, whether from all the surgeries over the years, whether it be canes, crutches, walkers, this ridiculous looking contraption that had like a plastic at the hip, and then with the steel rods going down to a pair of
All
shoes.
right, yeah,
Like
I have one of those.
back in elementary school, I'm like, great. Like I didn't feel weird enough growing up with all the other like this all the other complications with cerebral palsy that was on my plate too.
I can definitely relate with you there, man. Okay, so this pandemic has been really tough on all of us, man. So what have you been kind of doing to kind of cope with the pandemic?
I turned to my writing that after all these years of like everyone around me, whether it be friends and family, telling me how good it is, I'm like, okay, I'm on a unpaid leave for the next X amount of time after like I'm uh, off the grind of work, work, holidays, vacation. I'm finally off the hamster wheel after all this time. I finally have the time to actually like focus on on writing, and which I did.
And like what are some of your favorite subjects to write about? Or is it just poetry or
primarily poetry. It's primarily, but every now and again, like I do like even like way back when, like the whole writing started at the end of high school, where I remember like one particular exercise, like my English teacher, Miss Levy, she gave us a found poetry exercise, which
Absolutely, yeah.
consists of words on a piece of paper turned into a poem. I have no idea like how I did it, but when I got the paper back, I noticed the note on the left margin of the paper. She wrote, "Oswald, you're a poet." And I'm like, really? Like, I had no, I mean, like, granted, like, before all this, like, the most I would do is write the messages inside inside birthday cards and Mother's Day, Father's Day cards for my parents. That was it. But that one afternoon of discovery, I'm like, okay, fine, I might have something here.
So it's basically like a happy accident, right?
It just happened. Yeah, it's a happy accident.
Oh man, no, but that's good. That's good. Sometimes like sometimes the things that we find the things that we're good at by accident, and that's that's what you did, and it's been working out for you.
Yeah, that's
So what is it? What
yeah,
exactly do
it
you?
has been working.
Yeah. So what exactly do you do? Like, what do you do? Like, where do you work?
I work for the nonprofit organization Housing Works here in New York City. I work in the thrift store division of the organization, specifically in the donation call center. If you ever, we have our stores all over Manhattan and Brooklyn. If you ever wonder how the furniture gets there, chances are our department will have had a hand in bringing it in. Particularly between myself and my colleague Becky, we jointly, most of the donations that come in tend to go through, in some way, shape, or form, pass through us.
Uh, that's cool. So have you ever gotten any like weird stuff donated? Like, has there been any weird things that you've gotten donated? And
Well,
what is
when it
it?
comes to weird things, we tend to classify them as unusual finds. It's mostly like a lot of like exotic art, exotic furniture pieces that usually the type of items that the upper management would like deem, oh, we're gonna put this in the auction window of any of one of our shops. That's like the really good stuff. Although like we've had some weird requests come through, like we've had like trust me, like people like call, it's always like I don't want to say Russian roulette. It's more like craps, like depending on who like contact who's the next donor on the phone. Like it's never uneventful for the fact that it is a lot to deal with because it's not just strictly donations in my purview. We have these clothing bins we have these clothing bins in buildings that we partner with the Department of Sanitation that that I'm the one that schedules the bin collections. I'm the one that routes the trucks every day. So it's not just merely strictly donations. It's a lot more to it than that.
Right. Oh man. Uh, so when the pandemic first hit, like, what were your first thoughts?
The first thoughts were, okay, there goes like I just hope my first thoughts were like, I hope this doesn't last very long. This isn't gonna be like too long because naturally, like I was wondering, like, oh, like I had these events planned. Oh, the Gala Flamenco at City Center in April. Oh, Roger Waters at Madison Square Garden come come the summer, and most importantly of all, a trip to Italy later in September. let's just say I was not happy in the slightest to see all of those get canceled or
Um,
delayed.
yeah,
Because I'm the type of person that'll be like, oh, I live for the events that happen. It kind of gives me like fodder to write about on top of the poetry, like going to the going to these events, like gives me brings me joy. But to see all of that like go in an instant kind of was rattling on top of the fact that the paid I had to take an unpaid leave of absence, which was the other thought that as the month of March went by, of course, that thought started getting in. Like we started canceling pickups left and right. Our major event later in April was canceled. So I'm like, as soon as like that Monday, where it's like we weren't even in the same space because of distancing sake, I'm like, oh, this is not gonna buckle up. It's gonna be a bumpy ride.
right, right. Um, so okay, you've obviously traveled around the world. So what has been your favorite place to travel to?
When it comes to me, like first, like I haven't traveled like that far yet. Like primarily, it's been consisting of my trips through, at least on my own, through Europe so far. And I have particular fondness for the Iberian Peninsula, Portugal, France, and Spain. I guess like I've been to Spain twice and France twice. I mean, granted, like Spain, I have a slightly extra special place in the heart for France because that's where my travels began. That was where the first time I traveled without either parent present, Grant, because it was my sister and I 9 years ago this week, in fact, that very first trip to Paris and London.
That's awesome, man. Uh, that is awesome. So when you're not writing or working, what do you like to do? Like, what's a typical day off for you? Like,
Depends on the day, like Saturday, for example, like it starts early. I'm the type of person that wakes up, like I'm at this point, like I'm so used to waking up at 5, 6 in the morning because I have to go to work every day, like in school all these years, that it never really left. On a Saturday, I'm a massive fan of soccer, football, if you will,
yeah,
and particularly since like usually like the Premier English Premier League matches start at 7:30 in the morning. Chances are like about 7 a.m. ish NBCSN, boom, like open matches and like at least 2 or 3 matches a clip. Like that's an easy way to kill like at least half the day.
oh man. What's your favorite football team?
I'm Manchester United fan.
Manchester.
They came to me like after like in between high school and college, they had the preseason tour of the United States. I was not in a good place back then because it was like friends gone, sister was about to like go to college herself. So naturally I was not exactly happy camper, but then like Manchester United, I heard about Manchester United, their summer tour. I just happened to catch the opening match at 11 o'clock at night because it was on the West Coast. And by the time like it was like 1 in the morning, that I'm like, okay, like I found my team.
Yeah, yeah, that's dedication, man. So um what hobbies do you like besides writing and everything like that? What
My
hobbies do you have, man?
my photography is my major, like the major hobby. Like chances are like like my camera will be at my side most of the times when I go out because I love to take pictures, especially when I travel. Like I
Hmm.
kind of start from like from JFK and back. covering as much territory as I can in between. Thankfully, with my 64 gig memory card that I bought 3 years ago for my Portugal trip, I'm not going to run out of space. It's more like the fact that as long as I have a charged battery ready to roll,
Yeah.
like I will like take pictures of everything.
You ever thought of vlogging your travels, man? I know that's a really big thing now. People love to vlog their travels. You ever thought
I
about that?
mean, I mean, they do come out in like the occasional posts, like on my website, Instagram, and the like. Not so much log. It's more like they come out in like I'll dedicate posts, sometimes multiple posts if it's like if it's a trip that I've been through, but I never like really documented it the way it should. So it's just all to like it becomes more visual and the writing kind of mix.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So what are you listening to right now, man? What's on your iPod or iPhone or whatever you got? What's on your listening device?
What it what it what isn't like my iPod is the 128 gigs, which is the largest they have right now, and basically kind of runs the gamut. Like on any given day, like Miles Davis Sketches of Spain will occupy the same space as the Clash London Calling, or in the same way occupy the same space as the Foo Fighters Medicine at Midnight. Like they kind of, or hell, like even like from like music from my travels, places I've been. Like I won't mind like popping in Irish folk if I'm so inclined, or listening to Edith Piaf, or listening to Portuguese Fado, if like depending on like the timing. Like all of it has like space. It's all space. It's not totally rock and roll. A lot of it is, but not all of it.
Hmm, that's good. Okay, so we're gonna there now's the time in the interview where which I like to call ask the host. So I give my guests the opportunity one question they always wanted to ask me, no matter what it is. You can ask me anything and I will answer it no matter what. So do you have anything
Okay,
for me?
I do. I know you're big on pro wrestling, so it's like how like where did the love of pro wrestling begin?
Um, basically, I want to say 1989, man. After watching Randy Savage versus Ricky Steamboat at WrestleMania 3, that was kind of the match that got me hooked, and it's my favorite match to this day. Like, no match that I've been involved in or watched live like will measure up to that match. I mean, the beautiful storytelling and just everything about it. And after that match, I was hooked, and that's what kind of got me into pro wrestling, and I've never looked back. That's probably my biggest the biggest influence as far as match goes, as far as my love for pro wrestling goes. I watched it with my dad and my oldest brother Carl, who used to watch wrestling religiously, but kind of fell off, and I just never looked back. So that's kind of my pro wrestling, where the pro wrestling fandom started. Uh,
I mean, like I could tell like if you're like you could recollect it from memory as you did like that. That's like a true sign of true sign of the fandom.
oh,
In the
absolutely.
same way, that like my first sporting moment happened to be when the FIFA World Cup came to the United States in the summer of '94. I mean, not for nothing. In the midst of the fact that the World Cup, the Rangers lifted the Stanley Cup, and the Knicks got to Game 7 of the NBA Finals before sadly losing to Houston.
Yeah, what a year in sports that was, huh?
I know, like that. It's weird enough that like I vape, like that's where like I kind of say, like all my memories seem to begin from that point and beyond. Like I don't really remember much before the summer of 1994.
Hey, good times indeed, man. Good times indeed.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, not a care in the world, man. In the 90s,
No.
it's a decade I'm very, very fond of. Uh yeah, so before we wrap this up, man, is there anything that you matter of fact, no, hold on a second. I always man, no, we're not wrapping this up yet. Hold on one second. Okay, so if you could give yourself one piece of your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be? Ozzy, can you hear?
If I could give myself one piece of advice,
Yeah, yeah. If you can give yourself
it's
younger self one piece
don't
of advice.
don't let the don't let what if I could give myself a piece of advice, it would be not to let don't let what's been define who you are now. Those are two those are two separate things. And honestly, like I've come quite a bit of the way to this point where it's like now it's like, oh, like I write, like I'm a writer, I'm a poet. Oh, I just happened to in about last year I released my own book of poetry, a poetic journey staying at home. I've been on podcasts. Myself and my poems have appeared on podcasts. I'm beginning to build my following on Instagram, and I do have one more project coming up that I'm going to be part of, a multi-author book called Authentic with my friend Tina Welsum with our publishing house. The Key Publishing is putting out in November. I'm one of the authors that'll be part of the book, and I tell my and for the fact that I've like chopped up my story in all of its parts all these years, it's appeared in various forms. Now it just come. This is my time to bring it all together.
Oh man, you just answered my last question, which would have been, is there anything that you want to plug? But apparently you got it, man.
Yeah, usually I'm not like that. Like I don't toot my own horn like that.
Oh man, hey, it's your
But
time. Do it, man. It's your time,
but
my
after
brother.
all but after all these after the last year and change, I've kind of like despair dissuaged the fear of like promoting like what I'm doing. Like I take an enormous sense of pride in the fact that I that I write, that there is an audience out there for it, and I've come quite a bit of the way. Shoot, even that since back in January 2020 when I enrolled in the author Kathy Heller's program Made to Do This, which was to help the business side of it, a business course, which I like just to get from like where I was back in January last year to where I am today. It's quite a bit of a mark, which I don't like. I tend not to give myself much credit for. Like I'll like stay quiet, like be a degree of humility, but like be have a degree of humility, but like I don't feel that way anymore. Like I'm really proud of every piece that I've written, and I'm proud to keep going with this. Like I found like something that I after all these years, like all the writings I did through like sitting in between classes in college, like paying attention to the lecture on one ear, like writing, having my notebook in the other, scratching these things out, like I feel like I've come to a point where like I'm proud of what I'm doing, which I even to get to this point, even me saying that is a bit of a miracle in and of itself.
Oh man, yeah, you should be proud of everything you're doing, and I'm proud of you, man. I
Thank
know
you.
it's I know I've been like the most terrible friend, not checking in on you and everything like that, but this is my time to this is my way of giving back to
No,
you.
it's
Because
no, it's like I'm thankful for every like all the friends I have in my life. Like I wouldn't like I wouldn't have made it to this point with like all the support, encouragement through the joyous days and the days where it's like less than and the days where it's been less than joyous. Like all the support I get is I appreciate it.
yeah, oh man. I'm watching you from afar and I'm very, very proud of you, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, I will put a link in the description for the book that he has out, so y'all can go purchase it, and I will pick up a copy myself. So yeah, man, thank you so much for doing this, man. I appreciate it. You have no idea.
It was my pleasure, Isaiah.
All right, man. I will see you soon, man. We will plan something. We will maybe go grab a beer or something.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, man.
I'll enjoy that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This has been another episode of Classic Conversations. I am Izzy, he is Ozzie, and we are out of time. I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.